Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Good evening everybody, Militia Man and Crew. We decided to come in one more time. I know it's been a couple days that we've been together, but hey, you know what? Family takes precedence sometimes and we just get busy. But life goes on and so does the study. Our study has been a good one. I have to say, Samson, our news hound, she's been knocking it out of the park for the last few weeks, and it's amazing. So all the information that we've been seeing is just phenomenal. I want to thank Gigi, again, her and Greg, but Gigi, she puts together the chit-chat room so that you guys get some compilations, etc. when we have those. Does a wonderful job, a lot of work, so thank you, Gigi. Greg, your IT in the background, I know you're busy. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Everybody else, Pompey, Peter, your audios soothe people. They're very fine. They like the tickety-boos. They like the way you calm people down. So thank you very much, Peter. I really appreciate that. Petra, I know you're busy. You go around the country doing your thing the way that you do it, and you help people. It's a wonderful thing. And we communicate regularly, and so we have the ability to bounce things around one another so that we can take in the good and we can weed out the chaff, if you will. So look, most of everything that we do is in print. We do have stuff that we do get because we've been around for so long, for 15 years, 20 years. We all have some connections of people that are, I don't know, they're investors. They've been around the block. They are like us, okay? But they don't speak. They're not public. So we take some of that stuff into consideration. But mainly what we try to do is, even though we have some of that background knowledge and that outside knowledge, we kind of keep that to ourselves to the extent that it just kind of reinforces why we're adamant about some of the things that we get in the news. It's because it's real time, and it's what they want us to know and what they want you to know or allow us to know on their terms. But the cool part is that we can decipher some of that stuff and put it together and bring it home, if you will. Okay, so for instance, private banks support the Prime Minister's directives to localize private sector salaries. It's an article. You find it in Patreon at patreon.com/MMANDCREW, and you can come in and join us, and you can get every article that I talk about. Okay, I don't make it up. I just bring in the articles and I give you my experience and how I see it working. So look, it says indicating that these steps that they're taking will enhance the stability of the financial system and push economic growth towards better levels. Well, if you guys remember, Al-Sudani was over a year ago, talking about somewhat being a savior of the financial system, international financial system. And they're reiterating it even today, indicating that these steps will enhance stability of the financial system and push economic growth. So that's big. So in this particular context, what are they talking about? They're talking about directives that reflect the government's commitments to implementing an approach to financial and economic reform. And isn't that what we've been talking about? Yes, it sure is. They've been talking about economic and financial reform for quite a few years, but they're still focused in on it because why? Because it is a component of what's happening. It's going to keep moving forward. Economic and financial reforms aren't just going to all of a sudden start and stop. They're going to just keep evolving, as you'll see. Like for instance, like these electronic cards, for instance, the biometric cards. They issued about 40 million of those. Now they've said that Al-Alaq, I think is today. We'll talk about it later, but has issued 20 million electronic cards for banking. Okay, so some of the people that we know that speak Arabic and are involved in the internet have backgrounds in communications, etc. They they have that ability to understand and read and write and see what's going on. And so the implications are that there are things happening to where that when we talk about the articles that are the citizens hoarding money, that there's a drive to open these new accounts. Okay, there was a drive to get the people to have the national cards, 40 million cards. And there's a drive to have open bank accounts. And there's a drive to get these people to have electronic cards to do what? Points of sales electronically. So now they're starting to give incentives, okay, for them to do that. And they've been doing that. It isn't just today, okay? I'm just saying it's been an ongoing process. Okay, so keep that in mind, because why? Because the Iraqi Private Banks Association says to everybody, they're committed to full cooperation with government agencies and financial institutions in the country to achieve goals. Okay, the association says they have readiness to support all initiatives aimed at modernizing and developing the infrastructure of the financial sector. Perfect. This gentleman, Tariq, he says, we believe that these steps will enhance the stability of the financial system. I love that. Financial system, stability. What are they going to do? They're going to push economic growth towards bettering themselves, better levels, which will benefit who? Individuals and institutions. So that's what they're working on, and that's powerful. So the private banks are all for Soudani's directives in localization of the private sector salaries. Some people might not be all good with that, but as long as they start to move towards a direction of getting the people their money, creating jobs, private sector, correct? Okay, making sure that they get paid. One of the biggest things in Iraq is that, are we getting our money? When? So who doesn't do that here in America? Who doesn't do that in Europe? Who doesn't do that in Asia? Everybody wants, when they do the job, they want to get paid. Same. Okay, modernizing and developing countries' infrastructure of their financial sector is all about benefiting who? The citizens. Institutions, of course, they follow right in there. Basically, what do? It's seemingly they're underway already with growth in this dynamic that they're offering. The private sector, you guys, is going to probably just completely explode. You've seen the situation where they're talking about the port-au-fall today. I don't know how many articles we have. I couldn't go over all of them because there's like 6 or 7 specifically. But the bottom line is I'll get to 1 or 2 of them, and maybe that's it, because ultimately what did they do? They opened the port at the beginning stages. It's going to be a grower. And if they've got to this point where they literally have 5 huge berths open for massive ships, you can bet your sweet boopy, as they say, that it's going to keep growing. And they're going to have up to, I think, I read 90 berths. 190 seemed a little bit to be a far stretch, but the one article I think I saw today was about 90. So anyway, change gears. Here's an article that talks about Iraq's share in the IMF. Okay, we all know that the IMF has a component to financial obligations. They talk about loans. They talk about paying back loans. They talk about buying into the SDR basket, which is that special drawing rights. Okay, Iraq has done that. They're doing it. They've ponied up a lot of money for it. But they also, back when, in May of 2024, Iraq announced payment of all its debts to the International Monetary Fund last May. So that was in 2024. So they've paid. So it says here, in this particular Western media, it says they're quoted as the fund saying that Iraq is facing internal imbalances aggravated by the large financial expansion and the decline in oil prices, and it needs to gradually correct public finances to stabilize debt in the medium term and rebuild reserves. So here we go. But first things they said was that they paid off their debt, and then they're also stating that Iraq is facing problems. But you got to read the whole article. So if you don't get in depth, you're going to find that you might be a little bit misled by reading the first couple sentences and then moving on. But here it goes on to say the Ministry of Planning announced a decline in inflation from 7.5% to 4%. That's a positive. Okay, it's almost, well, from 7.5 to 4% is a big positive. And that's not happened before, they're talking about. Okay, it says these policies that came out from the central bank, they're also talking their cash reserves are $110 billion or more. Their gold reserves amounted to 150 tons or more. All of that's positive. Paid off the debt. Okay, went from 7.5% to 4%. Okay, and then what else? They are basically talking about they've repaid their entire debt that it owes to the benefit of the International Monetary Fund. So they're halting that, and now they're going to be doing buying in SDRs to the tune of like 1.45 trillion equivalency in dinar to the SDR basket. So look, in decline in inflation, they got cash reserves, they got gold reserves. All of this is an indicators of a major shift in economic policies in the country. They go on to say that it has been known globally that governments that get rid of the funds, debt burden, and the international bank are the most successful in managing the affairs of the countries and implementing their programs relating to supporting macroeconomic stability and implementing the necessary financial reforms. It says, as the inaccuracy of the vision provided by the IMF on the public financial situation, debts, and the reconstruction of reserves has been proven. So in other words, what they said wasn't necessarily true. So that's, you need to understand and read stuff because it's vague sometimes. It says here, though, it says that Iraq today, they intend to increase the International Monetary Fund by equivalent of 1.45 trillion dinars. So they're actually buying into they paid off their debt, inflation's down, interest rates have dropped, foreign currency reserves have increased, 150 tons of gold plus now, 152.6 I think it is. So take all that into consideration. So does that sound like a country that's still going to stay at 1310 with their exchange rate? What are they doing? They're focusing in on non-oil revenues too. So that's important. And because 95% used to be all oil. Well, we saw articles recently that talked about Al-Sudani's telling, or Al-Alaq is talking about getting to $40 a barrel. Well, I think that the implications of that article was specific because in a sense that they're talking about reducing their budget deficit, okay, expenses, if you will, to equivalency of about $40 a barrel of oil. So by going to non-oil revenue resources and revenue streams, by opening up to the private sector, many of the government employees are going to be shed to the private sector. Therefore, they're not going to be on the dole anymore. The private sector is going to catch that. And what did they talk about? We talked about the localization of salaries. With who? The private sector. People are going to be able to do their banking electronically in dinar on cards while they're working in the private sector. So you got to take it into perspective. It'll help you to see that what is happening, the transformation of this country, the digital transformation, but the transformation of the country is phenomenal. And it's not going to stop. And we have evidence of that today. We have massive amounts of the portfolio, which is going to be what? The biggest backbone and revenue stream increase ability maker, if that's even the way to put it, in the whole country. Because it's going to drive global trade to the port of Pho, a deep port with the largest ships in the world that can pull in. They've already got 5 piers ready, or berths, if you will, as of today, to do what? To ship goods that have already got some infrastructure, roads already in place to get the ball game going. Okay? They're just going to improve on it as it goes forward. They're going to build industrial cities, residential cities, and projects all along the route to go from east to west into Europe, etc. So you guys realize that this massive port to date is like, I think, $6 billion spent. They didn't just spend $6 billion and let it sit there idle and not be a bottleneck. I mean, we're talking about massive ships bringing in goods. They've already tested the piers. They're working. So it's really pretty cool. It's really fascinating. Okay, so then what are we talking about here? Are we talking about digital transformation, economic transformation, government transformation, all electronic, e-governance, right? E-banking, all of those things? Well, here we have digital transformation in Iraq. With who? Raffidain Bank opens 48 new branches. We pretty much knew that they were doing this. Raffidain Bank announced the expansion of the scope of the comprehensive banking system to include 48 branches. I like the word comprehensive. It says this update comes within the bank's strategy to improve the customer experience across all branches, provide integrated, fast, and secure banking services. It says that the comprehensive banking system represents a paradigm shift in the process of digital transformation, and it enhances its ability to meet the needs of a very wide segment of customers with high efficiency. So, okay, high amount of customers, efficiency. They're going into the new global system. Realize the world's already pretty digital. So Iraq is just now getting started. So they're getting to that point where they're ready. Branches are ready. They can have fast, furious digital components. They're going to have the systems in place. The new technologies are in place. They've already started all of this. They didn't just do it yesterday. They started this years ago. And so all of that is ready. That port is opening now. They're going to have the digital transformation at the borders to do the customs, all that. Understand that and enjoy knowing that that's where we are. Here it says the bank confirms its commitment to gradual expansion as they go. There's going to have more branches in the future. They're going to contribute to supporting the national economy, of course, and meeting the needs of society, that's the citizens, with modern and comprehensive services. So integration with the internal to the external banking will be a key factor in Iraq opening to the international financial system, which they're supposed to be a savior of. Remember that? Okay, years of hard work are about to be put to work in a far more meaningful way that Iraq has not experienced in decades. That's how I see that. Okay. So look, there's going to be bits and pieces as we go. The Kurdistan region, the government warns of the census, for instance, and announces its position on Baghdad's decision on the region's oil. That's the headline in the article. I think you guys should read it for yourselves. One of the things they talk about is that they stress that in November 6, 2024, against the use of the general population housing census process for the political purposes. They don't want that. They don't want them to use it for political purposes. They're stressing that the process should not leave negative effects on the implementation of Article 140 of the Constitution. So they basically don't want this to be a political component. It says the Kurdistan region has recorded a series of observations on the process to ensure that the census is satisfied with all components and that it's not used for purposes other than development purposes. So the development, meaning of goods, services for who? The citizens. Okay? So if they need 10 hospitals, they need electricity, they need specific components, ambulances, whatever. The citizens need services. They need water, electricity, everything. I think it's all about development purposes. It was also emphasized that the population census must not be employed for political purposes in a way that should negatively affect the implementation of Article 140. They say it resolved the issue of Kurdistan area outside the administration of a territorial government in the disputed areas. So they want that to be able to be, I believe, to help resolve those issues in the disputed area. Sure, fine, but not for political purposes. Okay, it says the council says the census should not be an alternative to the constitutional mechanisms in place and procedures for Article 140 of the Constitution, which is confirmed by the Federal Supreme Court in its decision number 73 of 2010, and accordingly the Council of Ministers directed the concerned authorities to convey the proposals approved by the Council today to the federal government, calling on all concerned Kurdish parties in the region and Baghdad to provide all necessary cooperation and support in this regard. Look, there's many more paragraphs, but you guys will have to come in and read it. I think you guys would enjoy it just to have an understanding fully. It says the ministry's concerned authorities have also completed in past period of processing and correcting deficiencies in the salary statements and sending them to the Federal Ministry of Finance, as noted for those who have not yet registered in the biometric system, which is I told you about the biometric cards, okay, who do not have unique job figures. But it says a deadline has been set for them on the 20th of this month. So I had some conversation with a friend who was talking about things happening as far out as next year. And I'm like, well, what gives you that impression? And the answer was, it just takes time because of personalities. Cashless societies just take a little longer to get functional. But my view to that was, look, you guys, we've been talking about some of this stuff for years. I just don't think that we're going to be waiting and waiting for everybody and their brother to be ready to use a card. If you don't have the card, you've been warned about it for years, it's time. The biometric, for instance, it says the deadline has been set for them on the 20th of this month. So they're going to have things taken care of, okay? That's how close it is. And what else is going to go on that day? The census is going to go on that day. Council ministers in the region, last proposal of the federal government yesterday, that was yesterday, to amend Article 12 related to the resumption of the export of the region's oil. So it sounds like they've got it set up, the last proposal for the government yesterday to amend Article 12 related to the resumption of the export of the region's oil. And that's through the Cyan port through Kurdistan region. Okay, my view is they're going to have a valuation on their assets for that. Okay, whether they do that today or tomorrow or the next day, they're going to have an asset valuation situation when it comes from that investment side of the budget, in my opinion. Okay, all right. I think it's pretty powerful. Okay. Regional Council Ministers renewed its firm position on the need to resume the export of the Kurdistan region's oil through the SOMO as soon as possible. So in other words, they're focused in on this. It says the Council expressed its hope that the amendment of the Article 12 of the federal budget law will be an opportunity to solve the problem and resume that export of Kurdistan's oil to international markets, again, as soon as possible. That will contribute significantly to increasing the country's revenues and advancing investment in this field. So what's at stake? Key issue, Article 140, salaries, budget law pertaining to the resumption of oil exports out of the Kurdistan region, all of which may be done in this session as we see that's ongoing now, which they've extended, I think, for, I don't know, a total of about 30 days. So they're not leaving until it's done, and we're going to have to see how much they do get done. Okay, this article is in the presence of the Sudanese Mashadani. State administration is looking for 7 files. It says here Wednesday evening, that was yesterday, they spoke Shia al-Sadani, Speaker of the House, Mashadani. They got together. They're emphasizing that they have they're emphasizing the need for resolving basic laws that contribute to the legislation of executive procedures as well as discussing the upcoming ministerial amendment. So they've got things on their plate. It says the progress has been made in the implementation of the government program in light of the passage of 2 years. Al Sudani has been in for 2 years. And the government, which has been able to achieve important national files that fall within the priorities and targets of the executive program. So the legislative and the executive program are working together. They're stressing also the support for the steps of amending one of the articles of the federal budget on oil. Pretty cool, huh? On oil. So they're stressing amending one of the articles just for one purpose, federal budget on oil. And they're in session. Okay, whether that's today, tomorrow, or Saturday, or whatever, they're still in sessions, okay? So basically, we could be talking about looking to see if these laws are relating to the 2025 budget tables. Okay, so remember they told us that the 23-24 budget tables needed to be specifically through the final accounts and before they can vote on the 2025 or even receive it. And now they're talking about having to be able to receive the 2025 tables. So obviously there's things going on that they're not telling you. They're just doing things with it. They do it. And it's not necessarily always their job to tell you every little bit and piece that they are doing. So keep that in mind. Here's an article that's obviously just reiterating support for Iraq has unprecedented stability. It says, Al-Hakim to UN representative, Iraq is experiencing unprecedented stability. It says the head of the Hikmah movement confirmed Thursday that Iraq has experienced an unprecedented state of stability on the political, security, and social levels, and they've regained its regional and international role. Fascinating. They stressed the importance of international organizations for Iraq in strengthening the Iraqi experience and enabling it to move forward. They've talked about in the past, the 2 decades, they weren't able to do that kind of stuff, but now they've got accumulative positive steps and they're reaping their fruits of the sacrifices of what happened in the past. It says Iraq is experiencing this unprecedented state of stability. And they, again, reiterate political, security, social levels. And what are they looking for everyone to join forces, everybody involved in the country, to transform this stability into permanent stability. And I can imagine them with this new port of Foul being open, with the new ICE cutter systems, with the taxes and tariffs, the borders, the non-oil revenue streams. It's going to be a massive change. And when they say bringing down that cost associated with the budget, you're going to find that they're not going to need to be able to spend so much out of the government's budget for the private sector, which is going to be a lot of those public sector people jumping ship, if you will. Okay, so ultimately, there's a necessity, and the necessity of the outcomes, right? What they're stating here is that there has been a recent statement from the Supreme Religious Authority, and they're reiterating that. Al-Sistani spoke, and he was talking to the elites. He was talking to the people. Do the right thing. If you have failures, fix them. If you're not taking care of the people, start doing so. And one of the things that they deserve is their constitutional rights. And one of those constitutional rights was just recently passed, and that was the Speaker of the House of Representatives' constitutional right to have that. Okay, what else is going to have? Well, oil and gas law, Article 140. Those are constitutional issues, you guys. So, all right, so it says the population census is in its final stage. The readiness has been completed in 15 governments, so they're ready. It says Thursday, the final preparations for conducting the population census Iraq is in full swing, noting that the full readiness has been achieved after the completion of the enumeration and numbering operations throughout Iraq. These operations began in September, ended in 15 governments prior to the end of last month, October. And now they're saying that the numbering and inventory operations in the Kurdistan region will be completed within the next 2 days. And when did this come out? This came out today. Okay, Friday, Saturday, boom. Holiday on Sunday, something to that effect. Okay, so let's see how that goes. I think it's going to go really well. I think everybody and their brother really knows that Iraq's where they're headed. It's obvious. Okay, so here's this article about opening of the 5 docks. It's Iraq's ports inaugurate the phase of receiving huge ships. We talked about this. It's the People's Project, they call it. It's huge commercial ships with large drafts have already docked at the port's berths. So they're large, huge ships with deep drafts. The reason why Port of Fa is unique is because of its location, of course, but also the depth at which the port is. It can take the largest ships in the world. It can save time, effort, money. It's going to be intense. That's why they're not giving up, you guys. Okay, so there's a serious government work and direction to increase the non-oil revenues, which is the port. The port is going to be considered one of those items that is non-oil, even though they're bringing in what? Goods and services. They might move oil out of the port and stuff, but the bottom line is they're going to be able to have trade go from east to west, interlink with the Silk Road Initiative, if you will. Okay. It says the economic importance of these berths lies in the opening the door for Iraq to make the Fa Port project a reality that transforms it into a diversified economy through the revenues of the Port of Fa. That's what happened today. Okay? Al-Sudani saw the balloons flying. He saw all the people smiling. They did a port check. They were out on a boat. They did all kinds of cool things. The opening of these docks put an end to the talk of the skeptics about the completion of Al-Fa Port. So it's kind of poking them in the eye. And beginning of the countdown to complete the grand Al-Fa Port project. See, look, they've only got the 5 berths now, but they're massive ships, which can, you guys, if you really start to dig deep, you're going to go, wow. But they're going to have about 90 berths. They're not going to have necessarily for 90 massive ships, but they're going to have 90 berths in totality. That's the whole project. And that's going to take years. But it's not an easy, if it's going to be the biggest port in the Middle East, it's going to take some time. And they've been working on it for quite a long time. But now it's opening. It says basically the Port of Fa will contribute to attracting new shipping companies in the future that can raise the level of the port revenues. Other positives for the Iraqi economy are represented in providing employment opportunities with the port, as well as opening the door to internal land transport companies that will deal with the port in the future. The Port of Fa will be the main pillar for attracting foreign direct investment companies and providing the appropriate facilities for that. And this will naturally be reflected in the Iraqi economy by raising the level of non-oil investments and their revenues. So all of that, the Port of Fa is basically expected to be what? The largest port in the Middle East. It has added benefits that you're going to see from the port because of these very large ships. Because of why? Because of that large draft. They're very deep. They can fit the ships. They're heavy. They sink when they have fully loaded. So they need a deep port to navigate in. This is one of them, and that's what they're doing. So keep that in mind. And lastly, but not least, we have a central bank article. Number of users of electronic financial services exceeds 20 million. I told you that they had 40 million national cards, biometric cards. And everybody that has one of those cards has an address, right? Okay. My view is that now central bank number of users, electronic financial services exceeds 20 million. So that's about half their population, real close. This is a bank card, electronic card. Okay, what's going to motivate those folks to get the other 20 million in? Oh, real effective exchange rate maybe. We'll see. But interesting thing is, like it or not, because they have those 40 million national cards, they can likely be able to send out the remaining, call it 20 million, if you will, in a very short period of time. Why? because they probably had them already produced because of those cards, and likely because when they're ready to do so and the people decide that they want the electronic card for what reason, a motivation factor. That motivating factor might not take very long. It might go quite quickly. I mean, think about it, for instance. All of a sudden, you're looking at your buddy, and he goes, "Hey, I got a card. I'm going to start making some money." The neighbor's going to go, "You're doing what?" "Yeah, I got a card. Biometric card. Now I got an electronic card. This is what I'm going to be doing." And they're going to be going, "Oh." And so there's time constraints on these things for the citizens? We're going to find out. Okay, central bank is trying to open all possible channels. Okay, central bank is saying they want to open all possible channels for citizens to obtain dollars because the central bank has no problem with foreign currency reserves. So the country is like saying, hey, if you guys want to do your traveling, we got the money, no problem. Okay, legitimate purposes. Okay. Okay, opening channels for transfers with who? Other countries. India, you want to travel over there? How about Turkey? You guys want to go to Turkey? No problem. We have the currency. China, we have your currency. You want to go to China? Okay, we can do that. Why? Because they use dollar from oil sales to buy what? Their currencies. They didn't spend the dinar. I mean, think about it. They didn't spend 1310 on a bunch using trillions of dinar to buy the euro. They used oil money. They used dollars. And they're now taking and grabbing all that hoarded money into the banking system to do what? To lend it, the Riyadh Bank. You guys got to start thinking outside the box a little bit. Follow along, because I'm telling you, everything we're talking about is coming to fruition, in my view, anyway. I could be wrong, but we're seeing evidence of it, okay? Okay, it's ultimately for or from purchasing these currencies in dollars. They specifically say it in the article. So Iraq's not hiding it. They're saying we use dollars. That's what we did. Okay. So Al-Alaq, this is the central bank governor, we as a country have lagged far behind recording a widespread use of electronic payment tools and the use of financial services by citizens, but noting that now the number of users of financial services in Iraq has exceeded the 20 million, with all types of cards, accounts, or all the tools that the citizens use. Let that sink in, everybody, because that's powerful. Al-Alaq is talking about they have basically opened up whatever they need to do to get them all possible channels. All possible channels are open right now, and that's what we're seeing tonight. So anyway, you guys, I hope you enjoyed our study tonight. It's been a good week. It's been a phenomenal. The amazing Super Samson has fed me so much information. I had a weird glitch yesterday. That's why you didn't see me. I wasn't able to open all kinds of data that I had. But the cool part is that we got it to you tonight. And thank you for being with us. Please, if you would, if you like the content, as many of you can, hit that subscribe button, like it. And if you have the fortitude and our ability, donations are always welcome. Small, medium, large. Zelle, Venmo, PayPal are the places to go. And you can find that in our details. Okay? So enjoy and have a great weekend. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.